for your chance to hear from the candidates. At this time, I'd like to call up our candidates to the table. And for District 4, we have Ashley Kierquist. Ashley, hi. For Eileen O'Hara to come. For our County Council District 5 race, this election season, we have Rick Wire. And we also, in the District 5 race, we have Matt Honey. At this time, I'd like to ask all of you to continue posting your questions on the papers around the pavilion in each category. At 5:20, which is in about 10 minutes, I'm going to pass out sticky dots, and I'll ask each of you to rank what you think the top question is for each category. So it kind of gives you all the opportunity to hear what your fellow community members see as a priority, and maybe you'll see something that really strikes you as important. So we have about 10 more minutes before we begin the ranking process. For now, I'd like you to continue putting up your questions and invite you to eat some dinner from Aloha Leipua in the back.
And read all the questions, because that's what you're going to put your dots on.
Right.
What do you think the top questions are?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Ah, yes. Games can begin.
Ranking the questions.
I think I'm going to start, especially if it's a short area. Start the camera early.
How's it going, man? Good to see you. Nice shirt. One of my favorites. What size? It's an extra large. I have 3 or 4 now. I'm now a double extra large. Great. I'll put it in my car.
She has her car shade. You know who she is, right?
Okay, folks, it's time for us to get started, so if you can have a seat.
Sticker per question.
Eileen, you ready? Come up to the table.
She was still sign waiting when I heard her.
Okay, so we're going to start with opening statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and their platforms. So we're going to get started on the far end of the table. Ashley, if you'd like to begin, and we'll make our way down. As we go through the questions, we're going to take turns with who begins each round of questions. Yes. It will be shared.
Is there anyone interested in helping us with timekeeping this evening for 3 minutes?
I will do it.
Put some really good stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
30 seconds.
I'm going to talk to Kale, talk with the Florida. She raised that as an issue.
But I'm going to go at 2.5 and give you some kind of response. Okay?
Are you going to stand in the back?
I will. Your line to start like maybe in that shirt.
Okay, Ashley, you can go.
Aloha, I just wanted to start off by saying that my heart goes out to the family of Officer Bronson Kaliloa. Mahalo to our police officers for all of their work to protect our community. My partner Cowie is a firefighter, so he works alongside our local police officers, and I have many friends in the department, and so I just have so much gratitude for them for keeping our community safe. If you didn't already know, my name is Ashley Kirkwitz, and I'm running for County Council District 4. And I believe that we are facing the biggest financial crisis in our county's history. And if you follow local politics, you will see that right now, our council is fractured, and that is a problem. Puna and our island needs and deserves effective leadership. We need someone that knows how to work well with others, to collaborate, is connected, is someone that can work for, with, and in community to get things done. Which is why I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do alongside Ikaika Marzo and the community in starting Pu'uhonua o Puna Info and Supply Hub. It is globally recognized as community at its finest. And I'm proud to have been endorsed by our police officers, by firefighters, by ILWU, UPW, and operating engineers. They recognize that our mission to uplift community is so critical. Building community is what we need to be doing. And I have the ability to inspire people to get involved and be part of the solution. I'm a huge advocate of public-private partnerships. I'm a mother who cares. The future of our island is something I care deeply about because I know my children will inherit this place. I was asked to step up, to run, and to serve community. I'm humbled to have been born and raised here, to have the small business and government experience, to be connected across the state, and to have community inroads. There is a lot of work to be done, but I'm confident that I'm not going to be doing it alone, that I'm going to be working with community to bring about long-lasting, broad, and deep positive change. Mahalo.
Aloha. I'm Eileen O'Hara. I am the incumbent. I currently serve as your county council member for the District 4. And I have been in office since December 2016. I too want to recognize the loss of an officer in conducting duty. That was just a horrendous crime. And I'm sorry that we still see things like that happening in our community. I ran on a platform last time of increasing public safety, increasing road access and connectivity, and I continue in that work. I was able to get a working group together at the county, and this involves not just the council, but the organizations that need to be involved, planning, public works, and finance, and we have put together a road circulation plan for Puna. Unfortunately, we had just completed it to the point where it was about to come to council for consideration when May 3rd occurred, and now we have to go back to the table and reconsider a lot of the connectivity points that we identified for Lower Puna. So it's a work in progress, and it will need to be updated. In the work on roads, the post office road is also due to be widened and repaved because it's needed. Unfortunately, our DPW, our Department of Public Works, is been called off to other activities during this emergency event. You might notice there's survey flags in the ground because it got surveyed in April and the intention was to have that work done in these 2 months. Also working on new lighting for Town and sidewalks. All of these things are in the chute, the money's there, but our agencies have been distracted into other activities, more important activities in the context of this emergency. One of the things that I would like to say is because of this emergency, and my heart goes out to all who lost property. I see some of you sitting here who were in Leilani, who were in Kapoho previously. and I'm very sorry for your loss. I also lost property in Kapoho, so I didn't have a house on it, but I know the feeling. It's a tragedy that we just have to live with. And I've chosen to now look at the rebuilding of Puna, the recovery of Puna as the most important thing. Creation of new employment possibilities. We've lost a lot of jobs here. The creation of perhaps a lava viewing program and even a lava museum as a way to attract visitors here. I work with a council that, in my opinion, is not at all fractured. We work really well together. In fact, most of our decisions are 9-0, so I'm not really sure what that perception
10
is.
seconds.
But thank you very much, and I hope to answer your questions. Mahalo.
Now to go on to the County Council District 5, please.
Aloha. Mahalo for coming to us tonight, and mahalo for coming to learn about us and for letting us learn about you. My name is Matthew Kane Ali'i Kleinfelder, and yes, that is a very, very long name, Kane Ali'i Kleinfelder. And I thank you in advance for bearing with me as I learn how to do public speaking, because it's kind of interesting. My name is the first name on the ballot, and it's the longest name on the ballot. It is incredibly long. I'll give you that. But like all good names, it comes with a story. And that story is my story, and it's who I am. Before I married my wife, I met with her uncle, and he gave me and told me the importance of the name. When we were married, I took Kaniali'i as my name. And I'm proud of that name. In the same sense, my wife took the name Kleinfelder out of the love and respect for my grandfather, Jim Kleinfelder, who passed away last year, March. That made us the Kaniali'i Kleinfelders. That's who we are. That's who we'll be. When my son grows up, whether he is a policeman, whether he is a firefighter or an electrician, he will be a Kaniali'i Kleinfelder too. You don't have to sign that on checks, and I understand that. But it will connect him to his roots the same way it does for me, and the same way it does for all of us. As all of us know, sometimes your name is your strongest feature. A little bit about me. I'm 36 years young, I'm healthy, I'm capable, and I'm ready for a challenge. I like challenges. I'm the father of 3, and I wear many hats. I'm a husband to a strong woman, which is challenging, but I love her. I'm an electrician for Provision Solar in the daytime. Sorry, check my notes. I'm a homeowner in Kurdistan. We're a small business owners. During the nights and the evenings I work at Likalihu with my wife and help operate and run our restaurant. All of these things make me capable of doing the job for county council. All day long I make hard decisions, and those decisions affect many, many people. They affect the people that I call family. At the end of the day, I have to make sure that the people I'm at the job with come home to their families, and that the livelihoods that we help build continue to be there for them. As your council person, I will support renewable energy. That's what I do for a living. As a council person, I will support families and the safety of those families. Because I have a family and I understand how much that is important. I'm already doing the work for my family, so please give me a chance to do the same for yours. I'm excited to step up and be there. Mahalo.
Good evening, and mahalo to all of you for coming this evening. I think first of all we should take pause for what we've experienced over the last few months. The lava eruption and the flows, and how many people it's affected, and how it's taken us all at least a time to step back, take a deep breath, and look at the future that lies ahead. It's one of those situations where we really do have to step back and look at where we were headed and where we are going ahead. My campaign has two main points. One is to get back to sustainable agriculture. Right now, we are about 85% dependent on those containers coming in. It's almost as if we have an umbilical cord back to the U.S. mainland. We have a climate, we have an ability to grow our own, to eat our own food. We have some limitations right now in that we have refrigerated containers. Up until the end of World War II, we were about 85% independent. With the invent of the refrigerator container, it's turned it around, and now we're 85% dependent. So with our campaign, we've come together with the farmers, the ranchers, the hunters, and the fishing community. And we're going to try to step forward to feed ourselves and feed our island. And so that is the basis of this campaign. I guess the other part, I should introduce myself. My name is Rick Wyrick, and that is really my name. So when you do see the ballot, if you see Frederick, Rick, Wyrick, just look for the Rick. That is Wyrick. And now the other side of it. I'm the only candidate right now that has stepped up to say enough is enough with our salaries. Don't know if you caught it at the beginning of the year, but the county council and the mayor gave themselves an increase that went from $52,000 to $70,000 a year for what the charter calls a part-time job. I think that has gone beyond what is acceptable, and I think those of us who are running for the office as public servants should come in as public servants. 30 seconds. I can never keep anything in 30 seconds. But anyway, I just want to wrap it up. $35,000 is where I'm looking for county council. Step in and do the job. If we take all of the cutbacks there, that would be $2 million back into the general fund. I already have another candidate on the other side of the island who has stepped up. It's only going to take a coalition of 5. And then we'll put it up to ballot proposal and start to get the money in. I have other ones as well, and I'll talk to you more about that later. Mahalo. So, cut from the top, plant the seeds from the ground up.
Okay, so now we're going to begin the Q&A portion of the night. We've gone around and tallied up the most high-ranking questions for each category. I'm going to begin with community. And I believe what we'll... Yes, there's 2 minutes per question. Yeah. So I'll have 2 minutes each candidate. We'll go down for both races. So all 4 will respond to, we'll have 2 minutes to respond to each question. This time I'm going to start with Eileen, and then we'll kind of go down the line and end up with Ashley. Yeah? Okay, so we're going to begin with the category of community. The top ranking question was, how will you build consensus in the community and on the county council? 2 minutes.
Thank you for the question, Leah, and I think the best way to build community is to meet with community frequently. Since I came into office, which was only 19 months ago, I've held 6 town halls, and I have another one planned for July 28th. That really helps bring the community together. We learn what the community concerns are, and I get to hear from my constituents. So that is a really excellent way to interact and build community. I also am the only county council member that has a full website on the county council website. And on that website, I archive my newsletters, which I put out on a quarterly basis. And I also provide other links and information on that website as well. We have a large traffic of visitors to my office. Hundreds have come through my office, not just for meetings, but also for information. My office is situated right in Powhatan, which I really appreciate because it's right where my constituents are. And that has really made it possible to interact with the community more. As far as building consensus on the county council, I think we've done a really good job as a council. This council formed a majority. We are predominantly female at this point, and we formed a majority when I came in. I was part of that, and I have also reached across the aisle, so to speak, and worked very well with the 3-4 members of the county council who are not part of that original majority. As I said earlier, we pass most of our bills and resolutions with a unanimous vote. It's very seldom that we have much conflict there. So that's important to build that consensus. It's also a little difficult because of sunshine law. So we have to do all of our discussions in public so that you can see our interactions. And that can be costly for the taxpayer, but it does help with transparency. Thank you.
I think the first step in anything is to talk to the people who are involved, find your stakeholders. So talking to the community, being in touch with the community, that's how you get it. That's how you figure out what people want. From there, you can make decisions and make legislation and make sure you're meeting the needs of those who are involved. These days with Facebook, social media, email, phone call, there's an office, there's people in the office. People can get in touch with the leaders of the community and they can make sure that their voices are heard. It's also up to county council to get out there and talk to everyone and make sure that we are hearing everyone and that we're addressing everyone's needs. At the end of the day, make sure that we've heard everyone and we can make the best decision possible. As far as the county council making good decisions based on what we've heard, it comes down to being transparent, like Eileen said. Transparency is key in any government and in anything you do. The more transparent you are, the more you can see what's happening and the more trust you have in the situation and you can build on trust. As well, it takes 9 people to form the county council. I am one of 8. So if I can work well with the other 8 members, then we can get things done. If I come in with my own agenda and I come in ready to get my own thing done, that may meet with some problems. Thank you, 30 seconds. So in overall, coming in with a good head on your shoulders, being ready to listen, that's who I am. I'm a project manager by nature. I'm an electrician. I'm in the field, I'm in the office. I've seen both sides. I'm going to listen to both sides. My grandpa taught me a long time ago, talk to the people in the field. They know what's going on, not the people in the office. That's where you find the good information.
How will you build consensus in the community and on the county council?
Okay, I guess somebody wrote this for me because 3 years ago I stepped up in our community, Orchid Land community, and was elected the corporate secretary of both for the board of directors as well as our road maintenance committee. We have 2,400 property owners. We have 40 miles of private roads. And so for the last 3 years, meeting twice a month, I have actually stepped up into that position. We've used a limited budget, which is approved by our membership, to serve the entire community. We came in as a new management team. When the management team before us was serving just a small special interest group. We ended up stepping up and servicing everyone in the community, all 40 miles. We had some sections of roadway that had not been serviced in 10 years. We've serviced those roads almost 4 times a year with the same budget. So I know what it's like to work with community. I have worked with community over the last 3 years. And I've done it as a volunteer. And, you know, my wife, she wasn't able to make it here tonight, but she knows that I would even step into this job as a volunteer for the first year to show you what could actually be done. As far as the county council is concerned, I would have to say, looking at from the first of the year, watching the salary increases that added $1.3 million to the annual budget, which was approved, and then watching them run up close to a $5 million deficit, and then coming up with the GET tax to make it all go away, I would have to say I give them a pretty low grade, and it's time for us to have new leadership in the county council. I will go in as a leader to work with a coalition to bring about real changes to the county council and also to get more of your tax dollars working for the community.
So my late dad had a lot of very interesting things to say. And one of the things that I call to mind is this one. I think about it quite often. He reminded me growing up that, Ashley, you get more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And that's so important. Treating people nicely, with respect, always exuding aloha, because you never know down the road where your paths will cross again and how you may need this person in the future. And so building consensus in the community and among the council is critical. And that's grounded in building relationships and trust. And I believe a campaign defines a candidate. This campaign has not changed me one bit. My message has always been the same. My name has always been the same. My appearance has always been the same. And I think it's important that you see a candidate who is true and authentic, inside and out, as somebody that is going to be working with you. It's grounded in trust and relationships. And that's what I bring to the table. And I have a background in communication and outreach, so I know what it's like to put in the hard work and to engage community. And I'm not afraid to roll up my sleeves, put up the titibun, and start working with the community and building consensus. Mahalo.
The next question that we had in the community poster was, we're going to start with Matt this time. How would you facilitate development in Puna economically and socially?
In early 2000s, a group of people came together and created the Puna Community Development Plan. It's a very well thought out plan with a lot of information in it. It's 91 pages long. I read it for the last 2 days. It's incredible. There's a lot of information in there. What I pulled from it mainly and what I agreed with were connecting Puna, connecting all the different towns in Puna, creating more infrastructure, developing what we have already versus building new, creating hubs that bring economy and bring the people and bring finances into different areas of our island. And I feel that that's very important in creating a better economic structure and a better community structure for Puna. We're very spread out. District 5 and Puna in general is a very, very big district with a lot of different people, a lot of different personalities. We need to get everyone together. I've said it from the beginning. Grab everyone, put them together, figure out how to move forward. The Puna Community Development Plan does that, and there are some bright lines there. I'm not doing anything other than standing on their shoulders and looking at the plan they created and saying, yeah, they did a great job doing that, and I will support that plan.
So the question again is, how would you facilitate development in Puna economically and socially?
Okay, once again, I would have to say we need to look to a mile out there and see what's going on. Everything has changed. The entire direction of the course in which Puna was headed has changed. It's time for us to step back and take a new look, a new vision at Puna. First of all, I think to look back is to look at our zoning. We are an agriculturally zoned community. We are an agriculturally zoned community. And that is one of the reasons why we have a limited infrastructure. We have to be able to look at what we actually have. And we have to be able to move forward to make the best of what we have. If we are agriculturally zoned, part of that is becoming agricultural and to be able to grow and start to support get the food production up so that we are supporting ourselves. This type of thing that we've seen so far, from 2005, when I first came to the island, we had 25,000 in Pune district. We're now at almost 50,000 residents. The one thing about the lava eruption is it causes us to step back and say, look, what is sustainable and what is not sustainable? So I really say we have to take a look from now and take a look what direction we want to go. The plans that were in place really may not be the plans that we need to move forward with now. And again, I think with the agriculture, being able to take care of ourselves, to feed ourselves and feed our island, is really much more important than people realize. Because if those containers stop, people go hungry. And on an island like this, that is a shame. I know that my wife and I, we're sustainable farmers. We're on top of the hill. And maybe we could take care of our neighbors, but we don't want to see anyone go hungry. And so I say, look again at Puna, look at Puna from an agricultural standpoint, and let's rethink of this.
Thank you. Ashley.
I've always been about Puna getting its fair share. You know, I live in Pune, I'm raising my 2 children in Hawaiian Paradise Park, and I have to commute to town for work. It takes me an hour to get to work. I don't want to do that for the rest of my life. I want more things. I want more quality jobs. I want more services. I want more programs for Puna, in Puna. And so we need to use our general plan and our community-driven Puna CDP and work with the Action Committee to start implementing. And in order to do that, we need resources, we need capital. We need folks with relationships, with large landowners, with businesses, with folks with vision and capital to make that happen. And I'm proud that I have those relationships and I can easily pick up the phone because people like me. People want to help me so that I can help Puna. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and I'm going to start with the importance of the community-based planning. When I was a planner at the County of Hawaii, 2001 through 2004, I believe it was, we started the community-based planning, and the first one that we did was Envision Downtown Hilo 2025. And from that, we developed a model that was taken out in Puna CDP, was the first resultant community-based development plan that got past the council. And that was in 2008. Here we are 10 years out. There's a lot of actions in that plan that have yet to be implemented. And one of the first ones that's very important is to do a master plan for Pahoa Village as a hub for Puna. We were on our way to getting that done in 2014. A contract was cut, and we had a lava event, the June 27th lava event. The contract was thrown in the trash, unfortunately. So it was one of my first actions when I came into office to meet with the new planning director and ensure that that plan was going to move forward. And we pushed and pushed and pushed. We had a contractor chosen, and the contract was in the process of being finalized when yet another lava flow broke out. So I keep saying we can't wait. We can't wait any longer. We need to move forward. This is a very important plan. It's going to address a lot of things such as business opportunities, jobs in Puna, and really get us going. As far as agriculture, we have lost a lot of ag land, and we need to be finding replacement ag land, and I'm working on that with Senator Ruderman for an ag park in the area between Hawaiian Beaches and HPP. We also have to replace our fishery, guys. It's come time. So that's Hawai'i that I'm referring to. So thank you, and that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. The next topic we're moving on to is infrastructure. Rick will start us for this round. The first question in the infrastructure category is, what will you do to replace or restore infrastructure once the lava ceases? county roads, water, and county parks that were destroyed during the eruption.
Since this is the first time this has happened in our lifetime, and the lava flow may not stop for decades, we have a little time to give this some thought before we move forward. Unlike the mayor, who seems to be pushing forward rapidly to get people to build again on Zone 1 and Zone 2, I think we are at a point where we have to pull back and see what's going to happen here. Wait until the lava stops flowing before we make any decisions like that. As far as the infrastructure is concerned, it's one of those things. You have to look at where we're at. The roads still have big plates across them. It almost looks more like the national park than it does a residential area. So I think we really have to consider, before we move forward, to let things settle down first and then move ahead from there on. Again, I'm one of those people who have said, we've never experienced this before. And who knows, history may prove to be true. This could go on for decades. So let's take a look at the infrastructure that we have in other areas, see if we can make some improvements there. Again, let's embrace the fact that we live on agriculturally zoned land, which again, our infrastructure is limited. And let's move forward, not knee-jerk reaction, but just with what we can do.
Thank you. Now we're going to go down to Ashley and then Eileen for this question. Again, is what will you do to replace or restore infrastructure once the lava ceases? Specifically, county roads, water, parks that were destroyed during the eruption.
There's no template, no guidebook on how we move forward as a result of a lava flow. And I certainly don't want to be making any heat-of-the-moment decisions. We need to let Tutupele do her dance and see where she goes, and use our Puna CDP and adapt that, depending on where she goes. I think we need to bring in long-term thinking planners, folks who know how to build out our community and engage them and have conversations and have them help us as a community and government decide how we move forward so that we can still have people live in the place that they love.
There's been some talk about a moratorium on building in lava zones 1 and 2, at least by one of our state legislators, and I do not currently support that. If you were to look at the lava map, it means that there's a lot of lava zone 2 on this island, and it's not just here in Puna. Most of Ka'u and a lot of South Kona is lava zone 2. So that would impact a vast amount of the big island. And then you have to consider lava zone 3, because we did have a volcanic eruption in 1984 that threatened Hilo, and that's lava zone 3, as is HPP. So I'm not really interested in using that as the main planning tool, as much as I am models that have been created in other areas that are prone to volcanoes, that are prone to earthquakes. Take New Zealand, for example. New Zealand has had a lot of damaging earthquakes. Christchurch, the whole town, downtown, was basically destroyed in 2011. And I visited in 2013. And they had done some amazing work on resiliency and flexibility in terms of building modular, building a whole new shopping area with shipping containers. And this allows those areas to be mobile. If you're threatened with another lava flow or earthquake damage, you can move things around. So there's good models out there in the world. We are not the only place on the planet that has volcanic eruptions and earthquake problems. So I would work with that and work within the community-based planning model that we already have through the CDP and make sure that the community is engaged in that planning process. I did have town hall on June 30 to talk about the future of Puna, because it's time to start moving forward. We can't just keep waiting for this eruption to end. So thank you.
To replace and restore infrastructure, we do need to wait and see what's going on. But in the meantime, while we're waiting, we have people still living in very temporary situations, and I don't know how hard that is, but I'm guessing it's not easy. We already had, and I think as we all know, the infrastructure in some of our subdivisions is already lacking and was lacking. And it was built quickly, and it needed help already. So, what do? We need to focus on infill in my head, and we need to move forward with what we already have instead of building new. Focus on where we can grow and improve. That makes more sense to me. It seems more efficient, and in a common sense way, I think that's the way to move forward.
We're going to move on to our next question for the infrastructure round. Ashley, you'll be going first this time. The question is, Hawaii Island pays the most per kilowatt hour for electricity in the nation. What can be done to mitigate this?
We need to embrace our renewable energy goals of meeting 100% renewable energy by 2045. And that means taking stock of the resources we have on this island, like solar and wind and biomass, and even the ocean, and leveraging that and making it work for our island. We want to be energy secure. We want to be energy sustainable. And so it's working with the utility and independent power producers to make this happen.
I also would like to see us embrace more renewable energy. But the truth of the matter is, aside from wind, there isn't much renewable energy that is as cost effective as burning petroleum-based fuels. So if it's a matter of reducing the cost of energy and providing clean energy, the direction that this community as an island may consider going, and there's already work in this direction, is to have a community-owned utility. Now that discussion is ongoing. And it would also allow us to have community-based power systems where you can run electricity across the property line, which currently we're restricted from doing. So this is going to take a combination of state legislation, mostly state legislation and county, and to effect. But ultimately, it's about a buyout of the utility, and that is something that's being considered, and we have a very strong working group on that of intelligent people. I believe Matt actually works for one of them, and I would like to see us move forward to a more renewable energy future, but one that the community was involved in and owned. Thank you.
District 5, Matt, you can start off. I'm going to say the question one more time. Hawaii Island pays the most per kilowatt hour for electricity in the nation. What can be done to mitigate this?
Yes, we do pay the highest rate in the nation. We are on an island and we pay for fossil fuels to power our houses. But we all like a cold fridge and it's hard to give up. I do solar, that's my job. I've been doing it for 10 years. We recently started installing Tesla batteries, which creates basically an off-grid situation for the homeowner when the power drops. They're amazing, it's seamless. You can't even tell the power went off in your neighborhood, your house is backed up immediately. I see the benefit in that. I install the benefit. I look at it every day. The problem with solar has always been it's not a firm power. When the sun goes off or a cloud comes across the neighborhood, all the neighborhood solar systems drop, and Elko has to be there to support that. And that's where the problem lies with solar energy. To get around that, we need to be looking at storage. It's not a new idea, it's not a new concept. It's something that exists and we're installing it. My boss, Marco Maglesdorf, actually was spearheading the program that Eileen was talking about to become an independent energy company like Hawai'i has done already. The idea exists, it's nothing new, and it's a great thing. At the end of the year, they get a paycheck in the mail from their utility for what they're over on. They don't have to pay more, they pay less. They're in control of their power. And it starts with solar, it starts with renewable energy. There are more options, there is wave energy. There are other facilities that you can use to make energy for our island. And we have to, we are on an island. We're shipping fuel in to fire up our fridges. So let's look at other renewable energy means, and let's look to our children's future. And let's be good about what we do going forward.
Sorry to rain and I left my car.
Question is, Hawai'i Island pays the most per kilowatt hour for electricity in the nation. What can be done to mitigate this?
When we came to the island, I had heard about the geothermal plant. And when I heard about the geothermal plant, I knew that I would not be drawing any energy from Elko. I decided to install the solar panels with battery backup, and I've lived off the grid ever since. So I don't really know what you're paying for Elko electricity because I've never purchased any. Since the plant has gone down, many people have asked, what are we going to do because we lost 25 to 30% production. We already have answers in our own backyard. One is the solar panels. Right now, all we would have to do is do a quick change over. Instead of paying people to put up the solar panels, what we would do is you pay for the panels to go up, and the electric company agrees to buy back whatever you produce. It's done in other countries, it works very well. It's just a change of the power system. In other words, you all become part of the grid. The second thing is, we have the most efficient biodiesel plant in the world. It is a zero emissions biodiesel plant called Pacific Biodiesel. They produce a product that's very low in emissions, and it's made from used cooking oil. It is used cooking oil from our island. They are already providing biodiesel for Oahu. They will be supplying biodiesel for Hamakua. And so as soon as the sun goes down, the biodiesel plants go up, and we've covered it already. So that would be the answer, and we could all do it right here at home.
All right, so those are our two questions for infrastructure. We're going to move on to the category of land use. Eileen will be starting us off for this category. I believe. All right. Okay. The question for land use was, the county allowed substandard subdivisions to be created. How will you remedy their failing and weak infrastructure?
Great question, and one that is one of the issues that confronts Puna the most. For those who haven't the history here, I arrived in 1980 and moved into one of those substandard subdivisions. One of the first that was created, I think 1959, was the creation of the subdivision of Ba'aba'a. And when I first moved here, there were only 11,700 people. And as someone just said, it's nearly 50,000 people in Pune. That's more than quadruple. And when these subdivisions were created in the 50s and 60s, they were allowed the agricultural designation, state land use ag, because the developers didn't have to do anything. They didn't have to bring in water, they didn't have to bring in roads, they didn't have to bring in electric. And so it was a heyday for the developers, but those who bought these properties are now finding that they have some serious problems. Now, some of our lower Puna subdivisions are a little better off in that the county maintains the main boulevards. Nanavali has 3 boulevards maintained by counties. Leilani Boulevard is counted, as is Kakakai. The biggest subdivision in my district is Paradise Park, 8,800 lots. And those main boulevards were never dedicated to the county. And it remains a big problem for that subdivision doing their road maintenance. So it would behoove the county, and I've been talking to our attorneys and to Public Works about acquiring more of the main boulevards in order to provide better conditions on the roads as well as better connectivity between the subdivisions. So that's something I've been advocating for, and we've been working on it through that working group on Puna Road connectivity. So thank you.
The county allows substandard subdivisions to be created. How will you remedy their failing and weak infrastructure?
As I mentioned before, the Puna Community Development Plan really spelled that out. Stop speculation, stop building new subdivisions that aren't necessarily well thought out, and really focus on what's existing already and creating tighter, cleaner infrastructure, better connectivity, and making sure that we're taking care of those first before rebuilding. I'd have to agree with that.
The county allowed substandard subdivisions to be created. How will you remedy their failing and weak infrastructure?
First of all, I ran out and got this paper because this was actually the first advertisement for Orchid Land, where we live. The advertisement says, "The coming farm belt of the islands. Untapped and unknown and underpriced." And then it has pictures of all the fruits and vegetables that you can grow. And it basically shows everything except it really doesn't show houses. This was actually supposed to be agricultural land. And we've turned it into a residential community without infrastructure. So I guess I really do have a hard time with substandard subdivisions. In other words, they were supposed to be agricultural subdivisions. You actually don't need the infrastructure for agriculture like you do for residential. So if we go to and look at this from this standpoint, we had one legislature who was trying to push through a Puna improvement bond, trying to bring just our roads up to standards. I ran the specs for Orchid Land, that was $50 million. That would have raised our taxes $3,000 for 20 years. I was opposed to that. I'm actually the secretary. I stood up in opposition to that. That bill was actually put through. Fortunately, the county stepped up and put it onto the back burner. My point is, if we look right now at how money is being spent for the rail system, $17 billion. If money could be come down from the state and the feds, just $1 billion for Puna District, we could take care of all of our infrastructure. So why are we not treated equally? Why is this island not treated equally with Oahu and Honolulu?
We all know that Hawaii has been rated #1 for quality of life among all of the United States. But unfortunately, we are dead last when it comes to doing business. And the issue is roads. The issue is our infrastructure. And when the substandard subdivisions, and I live in one, I live in Hawai'i Paradise Park, the second largest subdivision in the US, when these were created, the developers didn't think anybody was gonna move there. They thought, oh no one's gonna move to Puna. But they were wrong. And people are living there, and they have needs. We need infrastructure. And so it's time to get creative. There's a USDA rural development program. We can take a look into that. Financing a low interest or no interest loan. There's also a mechanism within the county for an improvement district, making it a special assessment for the subdivision, and then paying, rather than an association fee, using that money that you pay to your association to pay off the special assessment bond that would finally bring in the roads that we all have been waiting for.
Our second land use question, this time we're going to start with you, Matt. Do you support GMO in Puna and the state of Hawaii?
I attended a meeting at the Shipman Industrial Park, the Shipman Center. And the farmers are there, same people who lost all their land in the current eruption. And a lot of them had lost papayas. And I learned that a huge amount of our papayas come from here on this island. As the papaya farmers are us, and they're making a living out there. And they asked me the same question, do you support GMOs? And the first thing that pops into my head when I think of GMOs is Monsanto, and those big GMOs that pop up in it. I said, well, of course not, I don't support GMOs. And they looked at me and said, well, why? How are we going to make a living if you don't support GMOs? And I listened to them. What they had to say was interesting. Their GMOs are their papayas. That's a very hard question. Should we take away our papaya industry? Do we make that decision? That's a very hard decision to make. GMOs is a very broad subject. I need to learn a lot more, obviously, if I was to continue along. Sorry. You got me with that one. I have a lot to learn about GMOs. And without knowing more about GMOs and where we're headed and who relies on GMOs in our own county and on our own island to make a living, we need to take a deep look at that and figure out where we're headed.
The subject of GMO is a very complicated subject. I think first of all, the most important thing is education. Educate yourself what a GMO product is, or genetically modified organism. I spent years looking into this, looking at many documentaries, reading many books on the subject. There was an excellent book put out here in Hawaii called Facing Hawaii's Future, put out by the community. It is one of those that I think over time the consumer will make a decision. We need to look at it from different perspectives right now. I'm a pro-ag candidate. And right now, to bring the agricultural production up to where we can feed ourselves and feed our island, well, sometimes it's hard to get an organic feed for chickens. Sometimes it's there. So sometimes you have to get what's there in the market. But the thing is, over time, it will be up to the consumer to decide. You just label it, let them know, let the consumer make the decision. Right now, yes, I can afford to buy the organic feed, and I do. But I know some other ranchers and farmers cannot, and they have to go another direction. So I just say, as long as you know your farmer, know your rancher, and it's labeled, that would be the direction to go right now. So as far as supporting or not supporting, I say it comes with education. I think it's something that individuals should know about, because there can be some harmful effects. And on the other hand, in this particular time right now, more important to feed ourselves and feed our island.
I too was invited by folks at Shipment to talk story with our local farmers, and many in the room were actually Ohana. They own the papaya farms. My auntie worked at an orchid growing establishment, and they lost everything. And it's devastating to our economy. We want to be food sustainable. We want to be food secure. And we think, oh, it's so nice, somebody's out there cultivating our crops, hand-picking our vegetables. And it's nice to envision that. But the reality is farming is hard work. It's back-breaking work to be able to grow the food that sustains us, that nourishes us. And so I'm all about people being able to have the choice. Where we can, let's grow organic. But that may not be an affordable option to everyone. And so we need, as much as possible, to encourage our farmers, the people that grow the food that sustains us, to grow things the right way in a sustainable way, but also we need to make it available. We need to make all options available to our community.
Yes or no? Yeah, the question was.
Yes or no? Okay. Supporting GMOs or not. And it really depends on a case-by-case basis. The papaya industry. I was going through graduate school at UH Manila when the papaya GMO seed was being developed. And at the time, I was with 12 other people and started an organization called the Hawai'i Organic Farmers Association. It was very strong through the 90s. We wrote our own certification rules, and we morphed the organization into a certifying agency. That was kind of difficult, but we managed to get through all the hoops. When the USDA formed the NOP, the National Organic Program, it was no longer necessary to have small organic certifiers. There's now several big ones that service Hawaii. So I had been on the organic side, but I was also in school, in science, and working with people who went off to graduate school at Cornell, helped develop the GMO seed for papaya. And in that particular industry, it seems to work. And I see no problem with it other than right now, they have a shortage of the GMO seed. So for them to restart the industry on land that's suitable for papaya, and there's not a lot of land in Pune that is suitable for papaya, we just lost most of it, they need that GMO seed. And it's funny because I was working to help the Hawaii Papaya Industry Association to counter one of their biggest problems, which is pig damage. And now they need to protect that seed crop from pigs so that we definitely get that seed. Are all crops good for GMO? No, there are some crops that are not appropriate. Taro is one that our local community has been fighting the GMO possibilities. So it's case-by-case basis. I can't just across the board say yes or no. I am based in science. So thank you.
Our next topic is social services. This time we're going to start with Rick. The question is, how shall you provide permanent housing for evacuees?
Permanent housing. We can work a number of ways on that. Those of us who have extra property, we can build community farms. We can come together, have central kitchens, central facilities, cabins, and come together and share our land with those who have lost the land. Permanent housing, I would have to say I would go more a little to transitional housing right now. For months I've been working with an interfaith group looking at homelessness on the island. And we had come up with a concept. I didn't represent a faith, I represented community farming. To come up with a larger acreage, to build a community farm, and around it, the cabins, and then central kitchens, central facilities. To give not only shelter, but give a way of life, to give community back. And so we are in this process now. I've been working with 3 different 501c3s to come together to actually put this project in place. I've been working indirectly with Gilbert Aguinaldo. He did the teeny homes and got those 20 teeny homes up in less than 30 days. He's been very busy on that, so he said for me to sort of take the lead on this one, but it's been coming together. We've had interest, so we're moving forward. I would have to say on a permanent basis, it would be those of us that have the land to share the land and to work together towards a more of a community based. There may be those who have land who they can gift the land. So I guess that would cover that end for me.
Thank you. And how shall you provide permanent housing for evacuees?
Before we get to permanent housing, we need to first focus on getting our displaced ohana out of the shelter because those living conditions are just unacceptable. I've been there. It is heartbreaking. People are just getting all of their stuff rained on. And I mean, we need to have compassion and move forward quicker for these folks. And so I'm really proud of the work that Pu'uhonua o Puna is doing with Hansador Lumber and Ka'eo Jones right across the street actually on a family's property, Lloyd Tagalikud. We have submitted site and structural plans to the planning department to build 12 and then perhaps 24 total emergency transitional shelters to get families out of Pahoa Community Center. That way they have something stable and secure while we work on permanent housing solutions. I know a lot of ideas have been floated on the table for permanent housing. I believe that we need to rebuild where foundations exist. We need to house folks where infrastructure is, near schools and where services centers are. Take a look at existing subdivisions where the vacant lots and perhaps move people there. And then also consider revising the county code so that we can allow for more accessory dwelling units on folks' properties. So things are happening. I've already got my hands dirty in trying to get things done for community. Because I mean, right now we just all need to be working together to help everybody that has lost everything and so much.
Thank you. And as far as housing, yes, right now what's most important is transition and moving people out of the shelter. And that's actually been happening. The numbers in the shelters have been decreasing on a consistent basis. And we're now housing altogether in the 3 shelters about 150 people. We were up to nearly 500. So this is huge. We're getting there. And it's largely through the efforts of all of the nonprofits and faith-based organizations coming together. Gilbert Adriano really set the bar high, and I really appreciate that. As far as long-term housing, it's a matter of building on what we have here in terms of infrastructure, and also locating people where the jobs are. There are a lot of people who currently live in Puna and work on the other side of the island. This is not ideal. It's not ideal for social reasons, and it's not ideal for our highways. So we need to consider whether or not some of that new housing has to be where the jobs are, where people are currently working. So that's an idea that's currently being floated. There's other ideas such as infill in the existing subdivisions. We still have 30 to 40,000 lots that can be developed just here in Puna that are vacant, already formed lots. And there are large portions of state land that we could potentially develop into housing. It really depends on the need and where the need is. And that's what we're evaluating right now. I'm working with an internal group of agency folks from both the county, the state, and some of the nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity and Hope Services to identify that, because we need a proposal to take to the state legislature. Hopefully they'll convene a special session to address Puna's needs. And hopefully we'll get some money that we can throw into this game to build the infrastructure and build affordable housing. Thank you.
I think we're all saying the same thing. We get a lot of people that need help, a lot of us that don't have a home, a lot of us that lost farmland, and yeah, we're there. We need to find them homes. If it was my family, I'd want to be in a house. The tiny homes are beautiful. I walked into one. There's a house, there's a chair, there's a bed. For a family of 5 or 6, I don't know where you're gonna put your kids, but maybe you can squeeze them in. So we need family housing. Families are what support an island, and we need people to have a home. In my eyes, as a field person, I see infill as a quick, efficient solution to getting it done. We have homes that exist that are in foreclosure. I'm not the first person to say this. I'm not the last person to say this, obviously, from this club. So let's work on infill. We have communities that exist, we have housing that exists, let's get people into the homes now.
Okay, the next question from social services category is, should we build a homeless center in Pahoa? This time Ashley's going to begin. Should we build a homeless center?
I'm really excited about what Dwayne Karisu, Big Island Boy, is doing on Oahu. How many of you have heard about Kahawiki Village on Oahu? A few people? Yes. Very exciting, intriguing idea. This is his pet project that he's been working on for years. It is a plantation-style village for families that have been homeless. And it has everything that they need right there. Secure, stable housing that they can afford, childcare, employment opportunities nearby. And so this is public-private partnership at its finest. I would feel comfortable picking up the phone and calling Dwayne and saying, hey, can we take a look at maybe perhaps doing something similar for Puna? And I think we would absolutely get some great feedback from him, and he would welcome a conversation on how we could potentially duplicate that model, not just in Puna, but perhaps around our entire island.
Homelessness is not just a problem here in Puna, it's a problem throughout the island. And we do have to think of it holistically. One thing that we noted when we opened the shelters for evacuations, one thing that the Red Cross and those managing the shelters have identified is that we attracted a lot of the homeless from all around the island. And that just tells us that we have a bigger problem than just here in Puna. Now, as far as the transitional housing that's being built for the evacuees, that is supposed to be transitional, meaning it gives them a leg up and they can get back on their feet and eventually get into a more permanent housing situation. Those villages that are developing as models might be the best thing that we have for transitional housing for the homeless problem that we have here in Puna. And hopefully the organizations that are operating them that are long-term, like Hope Services and the churches, will be able to be in that game or be able to operate those facilities at once we've managed to get our evacuees back into permanent housing and use that for homelessness in Puna. I'm hopeful that that will happen. There are other models that we should be looking at, and I encourage all of us to get together and put our heads together to solve this problem, because it is a problem throughout the county and one that is quite tragic. And so affordable housing, as I said earlier, is something that we need to be focused on, because if it's not affordable, we're going to end up with more and more homeless families. So affordable housing is really the answer to this problem. Thank you.
My wife and I own a restaurant, and we're constantly helping a lot of different kinds of people come to our restaurant. People who are out of jail, people who just got their first job. Everybody needs a starting point. These homeless people are people. They're us. They could have been us if different circumstances permitted. So to me, we need to take a more social approach and put ourselves in their shoes. It's not necessarily that they don't want to be productive. It's not necessarily that they don't want to do what they need to do. Well, we need to give them the opportunity. Yes, they need housing. Yes, they need money just like everybody else, but unless we're willing to help give them that start, and unless we're helping, then we're not being part of the solution. where this is much part of the problem.
Yes, the question is, should we build a homeless center in Pahoa?
Okay, if we are talking specifically about Pahoa, many of you may or may not know, but the small shelters that were put up in the Sacred Heart area, working with Hope Service and United Way and Gilbert Aguinaldo, they had planned to put shelters in there for homelessness already to help with the families and so forth. This just accelerated the process, and Gilbert was able to step in and really assist to put something in place. So as those who are temporary in there now, that facility already will exist there in Pahoa. As far as any larger facility is concerned right now in Pahoa itself, I look at it in a sense that we've got to look at the two lava flows. They're all around Pahoa. So I guess my suggestion would be is if we do move towards a homeless center, I would look maybe at Upper Puna, outside of the lava flows, and go with more of that community farm concept in bringing in shelters such as cabins surrounding a community farm with central facilities. And that is where we are looking to set up it wouldn't be a homeless center, it would be more like a transitional, where people could come for a whole year to get their feet back on the ground, to work as a community, and have a way of life as well as shelters.
Okay, next we're going to move on to the topic of environment. This time Eileen will begin. The first question was regarding invasive species such as Albizia. How can we make them a positive part of our region? Is this possible?
It is and it isn't. Albizia in particular can be used as lumber. I'm aware of a project that was done a good 10 or 15 years ago by a person named Jim Farrell, who ran the ag programs up at Kalani Prison, and he built a house out of untreated albizia. It was more like a cabin, but he wanted to test it to see if it was bug-proof, to see if it needed, how well it lasted in our environment. And it was a successful project. So there is something to be said for albizia as a building wood. Or building lumber, but if we were to go that route, it's difficult to create an industry from what we now have in our environment, which is an albizia tree here, an albizia tree there, and on different private properties. Normally, when you're engaged in timber, you have a dedicated acreage on which you grow the timber, and then it's economies of scale make it cost-effective to do the harvesting and milling of the lumber. With albizias spotted here and there, and I'm seeing a whole bank of them back there, it could be done, but we're going to have to come up with a very different model for the harvest piece. And then you've created an industry which you've got to continue to grow albizia. And that's a bit of a problem because albizia is very, very invasive. It seeds, it spreads really, really easily. So I'm not really sure if that's the best use of albizia to create such an industry. It would be great to take care of the trees that we have out there if we can figure out a way to harvest them. Thank you.
We learned during Gizel that nobody likes albizia. We all know that. A good friend of mine told me that recently at a set in Pune, they built buildings out of, Disney took albizia, milled it, and cut it, and built their buildings out of it to form their sets. I have heard of guys taking albizia and using it as a veneer on a surfboard. People are inherently creative and we'll always find a solution to our problems. It can be burned, it can be composted, it can be obviously made into structures. may not be the toughest building material, but it could work. Given a little creativity and a little human know-how, I think we can find a solution to our Albizia problem. If not, let's cut it down and get rid of it.
The Albizia. There are certain aspects that are overlooked. First of all, it is a nitrogen fixing tree. It also breaks up the lava, so you can grow in it. So if managed properly, the Albizia can actually be put to good use. We can make buildings out of it. Recently, Senator Ruderman featured a home built with Albizia. It was a very beautiful, very artistic looking home, all out of Albizia. There are surfboard producers who are using the Albizia. So it has many uses. If you control it at small levels, it can actually be a great fertilizer. The leaves can be used in the garden as a mulch, and the tree itself could be mulched and used for grow beds. So it does have many uses. I think it should be managed. We aren't managing it very well right now, but it can be. So as far as the Albizia, I would say we should utilize it from all aspects. And that is...
That's not how we're doing it. Keep going.
Okay, I just didn't know if we were done.
No, we're not doing it like that. Sorry, Renee.
All right. Anyhow, it's actually a tree managed. We can actually utilize it in many ways.
We all know that Albizia is basically a death sentence for our native trees, taking out all of the nutrients from our native forest. And we saw that what these trees can do, major devastation during Izel, all throughout Puna and Ka'u. And so we can leverage this liability and turn it into an asset and make things like surfboards and homes and bioenergy feedstock. But really, we need to deal with the problem while we can, when they're small, and we're able to use a machete before we need to bring the D9s in. So I'm all for managing the problem and also leveraging that liability and making it work for us while we eradicate our island of this vicious and awful invasive species.
The second question in the environment category, Matt, you'll be starting us this time, is what is your stand on geothermal? No pressure.
Yes or no?
The rest of the question is, do you support geothermal in Pune and the rest of the island? That's the rest of the question.
It's my understanding that it's two separate.
No, I see it together.
Two separate, what's it called?
How does everyone want to proceed with this? You tell me, I'm gonna answer.
Answer those questions.
Those are two separate handwritings. That was the one that had the most stickers on it. That's the one we're going to go with. What is your standing on geothermal?
What is my standing on geothermal? Geothermal is controversial, and we know this. I believe going forward, we need to look for different alternative energy resources. It's culturally an issue. It's obviously we're looking at a problem here. We do need to understand that, being that 25% of our island's energy just disappeared, and Keohole plant and Hamakua energy plant are going to go into full swing. We're going to be burning a lot more fossil fuels, and your bill you get every month, if you're not off grid, is going to go up. So we need to take a look at that. We need to be aware of that going forward. But yes, and I do support alternative energy, and that's very clear. So alternative energy, there's a lot of different forms. I'm gonna have to go with the community on this one. No, I do not support geothermal.
As I stated earlier, when it came to the island, it was my choice not to draw an ounce of power from there because of where the power was coming from. So you know I stand there. As far as geothermal in general is concerned, I feel it was an experiment. It was an experiment that looks like to me failed. And so I say look to what we do have available to us. Again, going with the solar initially during the day, and with biodiesel generated plants at night. In addition, we do have other resources that we haven't tapped that would be very easy to tap, and that is to rework or remine our landfills and turn them into biogas generating landfills. Take the biogas, filter it into methane, and produce another electric plant using basically reusable energy. We can also do that with our water waste management plants. Back when I went back to college, back in '95 for a second time, I learned that they were already at that time using sewage treatment plants, water treatment plants to be biogas generating plants, and you take that, filter it to methane, and you have energy. So energy literally from waste. So if we look at all those different possibilities, we can step forward, use what we have, and basically turn waste into energy.
Thank you.
Pune geothermal represented 30% of our island's electricity, and now we're having to burn more dirty imported fuel, and so we are not moving ourselves toward our renewable energy goals. We need to take a look around our island and see what kind of resources we have. We have amazing sun, there's a lot of wind. I am a huge fan of ocean thermal energy conversion. We need the firm baseload power that can power our homes and our businesses 24/7, 365. I saw Jay Ignacio today and I asked him, so how are you guys getting along without Puna geothermal? And he said, well, we're getting along because we're able to fire up Hilo and Keahole, and that is what is happening. But he made me realize that there is a contract that PGV and the utility have. We don't know where Tutupele is going to go. She could take the plant, she might not. But at the end of the day, he made me recognize and realize that they do have a contract, and Mike Kalikini has said that they're committed to reopening. Is that the best idea? I don't know. We have to let Tutupele do her dance and see what happens.
Does that mean you're pro-geothermal? Is that yes or no?
I support all of us taking a look at all of our renewable energy resources. And that includes taking a realistic look at geothermal.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you for your comments. I know this issue inspires a lot of passion in all of us, but we're going to stick to the agenda and go to Eileen. Okay.
Very calmly, I'm going to say I do not support the reopening of PGV. The plant has been severely damaged. It isn't just sitting there idle. And to reopen it, speaking to people who know, like Tom Travis, who's head of the State Office of Civil Defense, it would require a whole new permitting process and drilling of new wells, etc. I don't support that technology in that location. It's unsafe as we have seen. I'm really glad that our governor stepped up in the first week of this disaster and sent Tom Travis over here to help us, because I was working on it independently and all of the community as well, to ensure safety for our community because of storage of pentane gas on site, and the plan was to keep it on site on top of a very unstable kipuka, which is a 1955 splatter cone. And that cone has continued to inflate, so that would not have been a safe place for that. But that was the company's plan. And so it took the community, and I worked with many of you, to make that change. And I really appreciate that the governor did step up and send Tom Travis over here. Whether or not the company admits it at this point, there is no community desire to see this happen. I also have had meetings with Jay Ignacio at his request early on, and they are looking at a future without PGV. We have other renewables that we can put on the system, and we have Tesla batteries. So there are other ways to deal with firm power. Thank you.
Okay, we're on to our final category, which is other. This time, Rick, you're gonna begin for us. The first other question is, do you support buy local? Did you buy your signs and banners locally?
Okay, I'll answer that. I work with a guy by the name of Aldon Hara. He has a company named Bright Ideas, and he did our banners. He made the decision. He said, Rick, you're going to go one way with this, and you're going to go another way with that. So he did some of them, and then he ordered other ones out. So I went local, but I let the local decide how I would purchase my banner. So all of the funding for the banners came from me, and he directed me on how we were to do that. I guess that's the answer to that.
So the question is, do you support buy local? That's the first part. And then also, did you buy your banners locally?
I do support local. All of my yard signs came from Ina Signs, and majority of my banners were purchased from Creative Arts. I think you all recognize that running a campaign is incredibly difficult and expensive, and especially as a challenger. I did supplement some of my banners with purchasing from a mainland vendor, just so that I can get my name out there, because I am running my campaign on a loan and mostly self-finance, and thankfully I've been getting a lot of donations as of late after our first debate, and more folks knowing what I'm doing in the community with the hub, and so a lot more donations have poured in, and so I'm really thankful for that.
I fully support buying local. We don't produce all the things that we're accustomed to using on a local basis. So we are somewhat dependent on buying goods that are imported here. But I fully support buying local when we can. My signage and my campaign is a mix. I bought some things locally. I bought a lot other things from the mainland. And you can review that if you look at campaign spending reports as to where people actually purchased their goods and how much they spent on their signage and their banners. So please go to the campaign spending website and check out what the candidates have actually spent on. I have mostly, the largest donation in my campaign this year has been from me. And that's because I decided to forego any fundraising in terms of having events and that sort of thing. Because May 3rd happened, I could not compete with the needs of my community. And so all fundraising has been for those affected by the lava. And I have to get as much bang for my buck as I can, but I was fortunate, being the incumbent, to have additional banners from my previous run, as well as signage from my previous run. I'm good at recycling, so we went out and got as much as we could. So that has made it such that I haven't had to purchase quite as much in this campaign cycle. Yet still, I would like to support local businesses to the extent possible. My printing has been done locally, and other aspects of my campaign have depended on local businesses. So you're welcome to review my reports and see what you think. Thank you.
You should support
All right.
We own Miko Leilua. Miko Leilua is a small business, is locally owned. And we purchase everything from local businesses, and we support Jolla Foods, and we support Kilo Produce, and we already are buying locally. So do I support local? I do more than that. I actually do it. That answers that question. And moving on to the next question, did I buy my campaign stuff locally? Yes, I did. Ina Signs has printed every single banner that I've made. And Ina Signs has printed every yard sign that I made. And I bought the PVC from local companies and cut my stakes myself and screwed them all together using screws from Home Depot. So yes, I did. And I'm proud to say that. And yes, if you are interested in who did what, you can go online and look at the campaign spending finance committee papers and see who did or did not buy their stuff locally. It's very obvious who did and who did not.
Yay.
So feel free to look it up yourselves. And yes, we are local. And we support local.
The second ranking question in the other category was slightly redundant, but I'm gonna just it's more about campaign financing. The question posted on there said, follow the money. How did you pay for all those expensive signs? But the second part of the question is, who are your backers? So I think instead of taking the time to revisit the sign issues, let's talk about I think the core of the question, which is, where are you getting your finances from? Who are your funders? This time is Ashley first.
So again, I loaned myself money to run my campaign. I think it's very important to show folks that I'm invested in myself and in the community, and so I'm ready to put my own money on the line to let folks know I'm serious about running. Along the way, I have talked story with a lot of people. I've been canvassing the district, and so people are giving 10, 20, 50 bucks when they can. They know that I have a website, and so many online contributions from folks I know, people I don't even know, but are inspired by our campaign and our message. And I'm not afraid to admit that I talk to people and they're willing to write me checks of $500, $1,000 because they see somebody that is willing to work with community to get things done. And I don't take that investment or trust for granted. And so I'm incredibly stoked that people are willing to put so much on the line and invest in a challenger because they believe that this person right here, Ashley Kirkowitz, can get the job done.
As far as the funding of my campaign, as I said earlier, I decided to forego actual fundraisers, but I have a strong base of support in the community, and a lot of people offered donations without me even soliciting them. And most of my, a lot of my donations came in as under $100, anywhere from $10 to $100. I do have some donors that chose to pull out the checkbook and write the $1,000 check, 2 of them, and a couple that were in the $500, $200 range. But most of my donations are in the small dollar amounts. And that's how I like to keep it, because I want this to be a grassroots campaign. And I participate in the public partial public funding program, which has very, very tight rules. You have to dot all your I's and cross all your T's if you're going to participate in that program. And I did successfully in my first campaign, and I've already made my match in my second campaign. And so that brings in $2,200 of partial public funding into the campaign. Again, the rules are pretty rigorous, but I'm good at that kind of counting, and I seem to get along well with the Campaign Spending Commission. So I'm happy to say that my campaign is a mix. As I said, I'm the largest donor of all so far.
Who cut all the sides? What's your problem?
Excuse me, Aole, we're not going to behave like that here. You'll have to be removed. So you have to show respect. Everybody know Ilalo and focus on the front. Stay cool, yeah? That's how we roll.
I am the incumbent, so I ran a campaign in 2016 and had to purchase my signs the first time around. I recovered almost all my signs that weren't stolen or vandalized. And so that gave me a leg up in terms of signage. I had about 60 banners to start with, if that answers your question back there. Thank you.
You may question one more time.
Yes. It said, follow the money. How did you pay for all those expensive signs, and who are your backers?
Yeah, so the signs are from Ina Signs.
Right.
And the banners too. Don't tell my wife. But probably not the best way to start, but I have completely raided our honeymoon account. We're very much self-funded. I have had some small donations from people who enjoy what we're doing and who we are, and I appreciate that. I have a Shopoto contribution, and I'm very proud of that, especially after what has happened and being that we have friends and family in the force. So I couldn't be more proud of that, and I don't think anyone's going to hold that against me. But yeah, we're self-funded, and I work a full-time job. We have a restaurant, and we're just doing the best we can.
All right, briefly, I want to go back to the last question, buy local. I also local grown and local eaten. I actually do work that much better, barter. You know, we have neighbors who grow and we share. And that's so when it comes to buy local, it's not just local, buy local, it's local grown and local eaten. So I'll just cover that one because I missed it on the first. Back to follow the money and how did you pay for all the signs. Again, my wife and I are no longer on our honeymoon. We've been together 40 years, but it all came out of our funds. So yes, I paid for everything so far. I have not accepted any donations whatsoever. I have had signs stolen, and that is costly. I don't know where they are. Anybody knows? Return them. Also, I went ahead and put out a mailer. I sent a mailer out to 12,000 registered voters. That cost me $6,000. But I thought it was worth it because where I'm headed is not just growing from the ground up, it's cutting budgets. And if you look at cutting our salary in half, that would be $2 million a year. If we look at cutting back the 2% for county lands a year from our property taxes, that's $6 million a year. So in other words, I spent $6,000 to save us $8 million. So that would be one reason to vote for me. Coming up on August 11th is working together with the county council, and I have been meeting with many of them. We already have two. Moving forward, we'll bring the initiative to you, and we'll put that $8 million back.
That wraps up the Q&A portion of tonight. We're going to move on to the closing statements. So each candidate will have 3 minutes.
It is the case that at these events, we often see the same faces. And it makes me wonder how the rest of the constituents decide on who to vote for. I have done a mailing, and it didn't cost $6,000, but there are cheaper ways to do that. And that just arrived in most of your mailboxes probably yesterday or today. So please check that out, and also my website, which is oharaforpuna.com. That's all you really need to know to get to my website. And that has a lot of information on it as well as clips from the previous candidate forum that we held at, or Malama Opuna held at Hawaiian Jewish Stables. That may help people make a decision here. But what I'm standing on is my record of effective leadership in the county council. I have passed 5 bills, 53 resolutions. I have a bill pending which will be heard and probably passed next week because it passed committee unanimously, to continue to remove abandoned vehicles from our private roads. We've been doing this for 15 years when suddenly our new corporation council decided that we weren't doing it properly and it needed to be codified. So we pulled back. I wrote that code the very day that news came to my attention, and it is on its way to becoming law. So those are things that I have been working on and continue to want to work on. I have knowledge of Puna from my 40 years here. I have always lived in Lower Puna. I've been a community leader in Puna. I have served as president for 2 different homeowner associations for a total of about 7 or 8 years. I've been a member of Main Street Pahoa since 2016. I try to get involved in my community. I was actually involved in the CDP process back when, 2005. Not anybody else, most of the other candidates here weren't either here or that was before they grew up. Anyway. Just kidding. Anyway, so I have a lot of experience. I have the passion for Puna. I love Puna. This is my home, my forever home. And I have demonstrated the ability to work well with the county council members and with all of the agencies at the county council. So I humbly ask for your vote again in this upcoming primary election. Mahalo.
Closing statement, 3 minutes.
2 years ago, my late grandfather came to visit us, and as we sat outside of the lanai of our restaurant, and he looked at what he had helped us create, inspired us to do. I remember him stopping the conversation and saying, "Grandson, you should be a politician." And I still don't know if he was serious, and I never will, but I do know that he planted a little seed in my brain, and it took a while for it to take root, but here I am. We've come a long way since we started this, and we jumped in late, and we're running full speed. But I'm truly proud about how much community outreach and support I've been given, and how many people have jumped in to help us out. And I really appreciate that. Some of you are in this room, and thank you. I'm ready to stand up. I'm ready to make a difference. I'm ready to develop new ideas that are different, that are out of the box, and that are fresh. I think that's something that's been a long time coming, and the more I talk to people, the more I've heard the same thing. We want new minds, we want out-of-the-box thinkers, we want to see everyone out there voting, and we want to make changes. And I think that speaks for a lot of people, and it's been a long time coming. It's exciting. I'm very excited. To get there, I need your kukua. I need your help. I need you to vote August 11th, 2018. For the first name and the longest name on the ballot. The name is Matthew Kaneali'i Kleinfelder. And I'm proud of that name, and I hope that I can make you as proud of me as I am to serve you. Mahalo.
First of all, mahalo to all of you who joined us this evening. It's a wonderful group of people, and I really do appreciate that you came out to hear us, because we haven't had a chance to really have too many forums. This is only the second, and it may be the last. So thank you for coming out this evening. Mahalo. Also, I would have to say this has been a great campaign so far to really step up for our farmers, our ranchers, our hunting and fishing community, to be able to really give them a voice. The Filipino farming community stepping up, the Portuguese ranchers, and all of the hunting and fishing group. I'm standing up to give us back the right to feed ourselves, to feed our island. I think it's the most important thing we can do for one another. It's why I wear this shirt all the time. It says food sovereignty, food independence, grow for it. The back of the shirt says Kupale Hawai'i, Kupale Hawai'i, to defend and protect our island in the right way, to grow together, to grow towards a future of independence, food security. Also, I'm moving back to the basics, representation, accountability, and workable solutions. To increase food production, improve our infrastructure, efficient and effective management of our taxes and resources. I'm also the only candidate you'll ever know who's calling for a 50% reduction of his pay from 70,000 to 35. To me, that brings me on the level playing field with everyone else. I'm just a working class hero. I'm just one of those guys who used to be the field worker, finally gets to go to administration and say, we gotta cut from the top and lead by example. So I'm going into county council not just as a county council member, but as a leader and also as a representative for you. Because I want you to step up when we bring up the ballot measures to cut from the top and put those taxes back to use for our full community. Looking forward to serving you as your new county council member. I'm looking forward to being a leader in county council to bring about the changes that we need to see, the changes for our growing ohana. And the one thing this eruption has done, it's brought us together more as a community than ever before. And this is our chance to even move further with that. 30 seconds. Wyrick, I'm probably the last one on the list. You know, Frederick Rick Wyrick. Wyrick. I'm the one on the bottom, but I'm just like you. A working class hero, trying to make a difference by cutting from the top and planting the seeds from the ground up. Mahalo nui loa and pahui ho.
Mahalo for caring, mahalo for showing up. When I started this campaign back in November, the mantra was, we build up the collective we. This is not my district. This is not my office. This is our community. It's the people's office. I am but a vessel. I am a bridge. And it's not what I can do for you, but it's what we can do together to empower each other to move our community forward while keeping it a special place. This journey toward elective office has been incredibly rewarding. I've met amazing people along the way, and I'm running for my kids. I want to make sure that they have the option to stay here. And I'm running because of all the people that I met along the way who want someone to fight for them. One woman in particular who I saw at many community meetings, she came after me, after one, and she had questions about grant and scholarship opportunities I had mentioned to a group. Talk storied a little bit more, and I said, Auntie, what you looking for? And she said, you know, I'm looking for a personal scholarship so that I can go to a grant writing workshop. And I said, Auntie, I will find a way, even if it is personally, to pay for you to go to that grant writing workshop because it's so important to you. And I think about all the people that invested in me, sent me to workshops, conferences, so that I can learn and give back to my community. A few days later, I'm on Oahu and I hear somebody calling my name, Ashley. I turn around, it's this Puna. And I say, Auntie, what are you doing here? And she tells me, oh, I'm getting my chemo treatment. And I look at her and I'm like, Auntie, thank you. Thank you for serving community. Despite your personal situation, you step up and you serve. Today she is healthy and thriving, but I keep that in the back of my mind. I'm fighting for all of you. It doesn't matter if you were born and raised here. It doesn't matter if you're new to the islands and now making Hawaii your home. I aloha all of you, and I'm ready to work for you as your council member. Ballots have been mailed. My name is Ashley Kirkowitz. I'm running for Council District 4, and I humbly ask for your vote. My name is the first on the ballot, and it's the top choice. Stay classy, vote for Ashley. Mahalo.
That wraps up the questions. I do have one more thing to ask of all of you. On the back wall, we now have 2 different exit surveys I would really appreciate if you could participate in. One is if you could just write whatever feedback you have on the blank one. The other one has, that's the blank one, thank you. The other one has, it's a graphing type of thing. There's 2 axes, the liked and learned. So if you both liked and learned something, my favorite thing, sticky dots. And if you could put a dot in what quadrant you had, what you feel you experienced. If you liked today but didn't learn much, that would be right there. Didn't like it didn't learn anything? There? Or you learned something, but you really didn't enjoy yourself? Okay, I'm just trying to see how, get the sense of the crowd, so I'm gonna pass these out again. And if you can please take two prayers to take also make a place to go. Thank you all so much for coming. Some time in Pune. I appreciate all of your caring to crowd. Okay, thank you.